Larry, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, my friend, and you?
I am great. I don't have the San Diego weather like you do, but it's like 50 and dreary here, so that's better than what it has been over the last 3 or 4 months. So I can't complain.
No need to complain at all. You're above ground.
That's right.
Got 10 fingers and 10 toes. You got a wonderfully successful business. Why would you ever be unhappy?
In the famous words of Flo Rida, every day above ground is a great day, right?
It's a
So
great day.
yeah,
The miracle that we are is just beyond comprehension.
yeah.
The challenge is that we've been taught that there's more, and
Mm.
I'm not sure there is more, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that today.
So Larry, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you've been up to over the handful of last years?
Oh, who am I? That's a really good question. I would say if you're asking who am I am a spirit that is living in this human body that has access to 10 fingers and 10 toes and a mind that is pretty good, a body that feels. And I get to experience every day as the passenger in my own car watching this world unfold in front of me.
Mm.
I think that one of the things that I've found is that for most of my life, my mind was the driver of the car. And what I've found through the work that I've done for myself and the work I do with my clients is that the more we can release the mind from its need for control of this vehicle, human body, skin sack, whatever you want to call it, the more peace we can find in our life.
Mm. Break that down for me. You say that my mind has been the driver of the car. What does that mean?
I believe that my thoughts, or I did believe for a long time that my thoughts were me, that
Okay.
I was the thoughts in my head. And the work that I've done over the last 6+ decades, mostly the last 30 years and the last decade intensively, I pretty much went into a cocoon about 10 years ago and got back from a trip to Africa. My world kind of changed dramatically after a month in Africa, which is what both of these books were after that
Mm.
experience. So I went to Africa in 2012 to bring computers to rural villages in eastern and northern Uganda, and we did that.
Okay.
And I was there for almost a month. And when I got back to the airport at JFK in New York on August 17th of 2012, I was sitting there like dumbfounded because I had met all these people that were happier than just about anybody I know.
Mm.
And they had so much less than most of the people I've met in my life.
Mm.
And those two things did not compute. And I went on a personal journey. And I had defined success for myself at 28 as the ability to do what I want whenever I want to do it. I like defining things.
Okay.
And when I defined success for myself at 28, I went pursuing that. And when I got to 48, I was successful. I mean, think about it. I went to Africa for a month. My business ran without me. I was able to bring both my kids and my then wife, met my brother in Nairobi, and we did a safari together. So 3.5+ weeks out of the country, disconnected from my work, and I was still making money. And the machine was running. And I was quote unquote successful. And when I got back, I'm like, okay, if that is my definition of success, I don't want that anymore. I want
Mm.
what those people over there had. I wanted that joy. I wanted that aliveness. So I said, I'm done with success. I need to be significant. And I started going down the road of significance. So I read Bob Buford's book, Halftime, and Second Mountain was just out by David Brooks, and all this stuff about accomplishment as the first phase of life and being of service is the second phase of life. And then I wrote the book, Success Redefined. And when I redefined success, I said, what? Success without significance isn't really success. So my new definition is the ability to do what I want whenever I want to do it while being part of something greater than myself.
Mm.
Now, I've always volunteered and I've always been of service, but I didn't understand it at that moment. And to this moment, I always thought, well, when I went to Africa, I thought that purpose, which everybody was talking about purpose, and everybody was saying purpose is our destiny and we're supposed to go find our purpose. And I'm not sure at 62 and a half that I believe that anymore. I think purpose is a doorway, which is this new book. So out of Success Redefined, I wrote this line in the book. It said, conscious connection plus purpose equals joy. And the writer I was working with, her name is Susan Saba, said, Larry, that's C2P. And I'm like, okay, what is C2P? She says, Larry, if H2O is the water molecule, then C2P is the joy molecule, which
Mm.
is the cover of the book. So since it was water, joy, hence the water droplet on the cover of the book of the joy molecule.
Mm.
So this idea of when we consciously connect with others, that's where we find joy. That to me was my journey, is where do I find the joy that these other people had so much less than I did? The part of the story I'm left out so far is that I went to a conference 7 weeks after I got back from Africa. And at that conference in Mexico, I was asked 3 questions in my first workshop on my first morning. The conference is called Opportunity Collaboration. It happens every year, focused on social impact. And the questions were, what is poverty? Who gets to define it? And why are we trying to fix it? And those 3 questions kind of blew my mind.
Mm.
Because I said, I just went to a place that was poor and I didn't experience poverty. I experienced impoverishment. I experienced people living in mud houses and thatched roofs and living with less than what I was used to. And I forced my family to stay in a hotel with $7 a night for a room with a bed in it. It had a mosquito net that was good. So my ex-wife and my son would stay in one room and I would stay with my daughter in the other. They were 10 and 12 at the time. And that experience totally changed my perspective. So what is poverty? And I started spending the next 18 months until I did a TED Talk in 2014. And that TED Talk was called The Disconnected Connected World. And I realized that people that I met in Africa, they were deeply connected. They were connected to each other. They were connected to the land. They were connected to their ancestors. And I came to the conclusion that purpose is just a doorway to deeper connection. And that everything in my life, I am a human connector. That's what people know me as. My title of my company is Chief Connector. My company's called 5 Dots. I connect dots. That's what I do. That is one of the skills that this vehicle has. It is no longer my identity, which is where I got trapped for 6 decades. Is
Mm.
that I was this identity of I am an entrepreneur. I am a founder of businesses. I am a coach. And I've realized that no, I'm a being. I have all these skills that I've learned, and I have all these natural gifts. And this being does some really cool stuff. So if I give you the analogy, when I was born, 007 was planted inside of me, and the world affected me for decades. And then one day, 007 wakes up and says, wow, I'm inside this machine. I have no idea what it does. It has no handbook, but somebody designed this incredible machine for me, and I got to figure out how it works. And I believe that 007 is our true self.
Mm.
And if we think about from the time we're born and the time you are right now, as my guess is you're in the middle of this journey of figuring out who am I at the end of the day. So when you say stuff like, I don't like myself, or I'm frustrated with myself, who is I and who is myself? And the way that I look at it is our being versus our mind versus our feelings. And it's almost like the sky. I am the sky. My thoughts are the clouds and my feelings are the weather. And in the past, I believed I was the clouds, and I'm
Mm.
not. I am the viewer of the clouds. I am the thing that is above the clouds watching them. And some days the clouds are really nasty and thunderous, and sometimes they're light and fluffy, and sometimes they move slowly, and sometimes they move quickly, and sometimes they bring depression, and sometimes they bring excitement. But at the end of the day, that is not me.
Mm.
Those are just the thoughts that I'm experiencing.
Mm. Right. I
So,
think I kind of first heard that from Eckhart Tolle, like,
sure.
and his experiment was like just kind of listen to your thoughts, and he's like,
Mhm.
if you're listening to your thoughts, then like, who's the person listening? Like, what is that essentially? And that like kind of like took me back, and I'm like, yeah, right. Like, if I can listen to my thoughts, well, then I can't be my thoughts. I have to be the listener, right? So I thought
Mhm.
that was really fascinating. I don't know if I took it anywhere and used it for anything, but I'm interested to hear how you got to that kind of place. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your businesses because, as
Sure.
you put it, and this is kind of the famous like Jim Carrey, right? Like, I wish everyone would get
I
all the
don't
success
exist.
that they wanted, and then they
Yeah.
figure out like, oh, that isn't what I needed in the beginning. but you kind of still have to get that success. So like, what was your business career like?
So I started out in corporate, degreed engineer, went to work for Westinghouse, ended up at GE for about 5 years. 29 years old, I spent a week with 85 inner city kids in Colorado. At the end of that week, I realized that those kids were happier than I was.
Mm,
So I came back on a Saturday night, and Monday I quit my job after an 8-year corporate career.
mm,
And my boss said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I have no idea, but not this."
wow.
And 20 plus years later, I went to his retirement party in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I asked him to leave with me. I told him, "Let's go buy a business and we can build a business together." And he's like, "I got too many golden handcuffs. I got too much stock. GE basically owns me." And by the time he retired after 39 years, he was an amazing guy, but he was burnt,
Mm,
and he was used up by a corporation. And I never wanted to do that. So
mm,
I've kind of been on my own. I left in 1993. I thought I was going to do one thing, then I ended up doing some other things, and I met a guy on a train from New York to Philadelphia. We started talking. He wanted to start a radio show, had started a radio show called Let's Talk Business. It was on about 30 little small stations in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in the United States. This is well before the internet. I'm a geek, I'm a technologist, but I'm really an entrepreneur underneath it all. Honestly, I'm more of a coach than I am entrepreneur.
mm,
So, and I have some business development skills. So, my partner and I decided to start building a company. And I had a technology background, so we started playing around with the internet, and we started looking at building a platform to help entrepreneurs grow. The show was all about entrepreneurship,
mm,
and Let's Talk Business was the radio show. And then we started a company called Let's Talk Business Network. And I started building peer groups in New York City in 1996.
mm.
So when YPO was just in its infancy and EO was just launched, it was originally launched as YEO back in the day by Vern Harnish and Doug Mellinger, who's out of Connecticut. They were started Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. And when they graduated from college, they started Young Entrepreneurs. Young Entrepreneurs became Entrepreneurs Organization. Vistage, which was originally called
Yep.
Tech. And I was around during that boom. And in 2000, Avaya split off from Lucent. And I got recruited by the woman who headed up small business marketing. She said, "I have 1,400 business partners. I teach them how to run the technology side of their business. I teach them how to make phone systems work, but I don't help them run their business. Can you help them? You know a lot about technology, and you know a lot about entrepreneurship." And I said, "Sure." So they put me on a 12-city roadshow. I did peer collaboration for the owners of the businesses in those little breakouts. And I realized that all these guys were local. They were doing the same exact thing. So I had a 12-city roadshow. And after the fourth city, I'm sitting there. I'm going running peer groups in New York City for people that do different things in the same city. These people have the same exact problems. They're in the same exact business,
Mhm.
using the same exact distribution network, and they don't know each other.
Right.
And I went to the woman who ran channels and I said, "I'd love to build you a peer program for your clients." And I did. And that launched my business, which was called For Profit. I ended up building a program for Avaya. IBM wrote us a big check to build one for them.
Mm,
And then in 2007, I partnered with Cisco, which was the best technology ecosystem in the world at the time, maybe still is. And we ended up building a peer program for them, and then ShoreTel in 2010. And over a 15-year period, I probably serviced close to 1,000 executives of owners of resellers. Did workshops for the corporations, teaching them the difference between a corporate mindset and an entrepreneurial mindset.
mm,
I wrote a book called Breakpoints. I have it here, where businesses get stuck and how to get them unstuck. So this was my second book. So I've written 2 business books and now 2 personal development books. And I've got 4 more books in the next 5 years that'll come out, all around the joy molecule, all around what does it mean to be human.
mm,
So my entrepreneurial journey taught me that I didn't want to service just anyone. The second story in the joy molecule, which is 8 stories of 8 people that have taught me 5 critical lessons in my life. So the first lesson, I met a kid. So I go to Africa, and you asked me about my career. I made money by helping other people make money in an industry that found me, that I didn't find it, that I truly didn't really care about. And most of the tech executives that I met were more interested in their own ego than they were in making the world a better place. And all I cared about towards the end of running that business was, how do I leave this planet better than I found it? And I didn't find a lot of collaboration. Maybe 20% of my clients cared about that stuff.
mm,
And I was going to conferences in 2012, 2013. So I get back from Africa. I go to opportunity collaboration. I start learning about social impact. And then I go in 2013 and I do my own conference for my own 75 to 100 clients. And I stand up on stage and I'm like, life is about purpose. Like, you are seeing the world through your own unique lens and you have your own reason for being. Nobody sees the world the way that you do. And we all have a reason for being here. And half of them looked at me like I had two heads.
Hmm.
I'm like, what am I doing working 50 weeks a year so I can take 2 weeks to make an impact? So after getting back from Africa, I started speaking. I did my first speech outside the industry in 10 years to a trade show booth company conference.
Mm.
And the guy who was running the conference said, Larry, I know your story. I know you've met some amazing people on your journey. Talk about breakpoints to my audience, which is the 7 places where businesses get stuck and how to get them unstuck. And he says, why don't you talk about some of the people you've met instead of doing a Q&A? And I said, great. So I do 40 minutes on the book, my standard pitch, blah, blah, blah. Businesses need a plan. They need to recruit well. They need to communicate. They need to figure out their partnership structure. They need to build a sales engine. They need to upgrade their talent. And they need to have a CEO. The last one was CEO Tom. I said, everybody, I meet a lot of people with CEO on their business card, but I don't meet a lot of CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
So I give this talk for 40 minutes. And then for the last 20 minutes, I talked about 4 people I'd met over the last 3 years running around the world trying to make an impact. So I talked about the woman who brought me to Africa. I talked about the young man that I met when I was in Africa. So I'm in Africa. I landed in Entebbe Airport after coming through Turkey, Istanbul. And there was a list of people whose bags got left in Istanbul.
Mm.
And the first 4 names on the list were Kesslin, 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 Kesslin. So all 4 of my bags didn't make it on the plane from Istanbul to Entebbe. So I get to meet the country director of Turkish Airlines 3 times over the next couple of weeks.
Hmm.
And he ended up giving me over $1,000 for my inconvenience for losing my bags. Nobody gets money for getting your bags lost for 6 days.
Right.
It's just an inconvenience, but he actually wrote me a check. And I go to this rural village in eastern Uganda, and the woman who brought me there, her name is Debs, introduced me to this kid named Armstrong. So imagine this. I'm in Africa. I'm a born Jewish. I'm in this Jewish community, and I meet a young African Jewish kid named Armstrong, birth given name, who wants to become a pilot.
Hmm.
And I mean, the most famous Armstrong I know is Neil Armstrong, and he was the first man on the moon. It's like, okay, Armstrong was meant to be a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And she says to me, he needs $1,000 to take a pilot's test. So I look at my then wife and I said, I met this kid and I'd like you to meet him. He needs $1,000 to take a pilot's test. We were just given this money by an airline. I didn't budget for it. I mean, the trip was costing us 40 grand, whatever. What does $1,000 mean in that budget to someone who's making money? It was insignificant to me at that time. So I said to her, I'd like to give it to him. She says, let me meet him tomorrow. So she did. And we said, okay. So I hand this kid 10 $100 bills Saturday morning. We got there Friday. And he takes the money and I meet him 2.5 weeks later in Nairobi. We had just gotten back, finished our trip. I met all these people that were just filled with joy. And Armstrong sees me at Wilson Airport in Nairobi. Mr. Larry, hi. I'm like, hi, Armstrong, how you doing? He says, I passed my test. I'm like, that's great, Armstrong. He says, now I need money for flight lessons. I'm like, whoa, I gave you money to take a test.
Yeah.
Let's hold back a little bit. And I said, let me get back to the United States and let's have a conversation. So I talked to Armstrong over the next 1.5 years plus every other Sunday for an hour. I would go play volleyball on the beach on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, I would call Armstrong and it'd be 6 o'clock in Nairobi. And we would have a beautiful conversation. I got to know him. I ended up sending him some money to take flight lessons. One thing led to another. I brought him to the United States in 2014. And Armstrong lives here. He goes back to Africa on a regular basis. And an amazing young man. But that trip taught me something about my first lesson in this book is Armstrong's story about losing the bags and giving the money to Armstrong, is that my circumstance does not define my joy. That my joy is irrelevant of what's going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I met all these people that had nothing and they were filled with joy. And I said, what is it that they have that I don't? And that's been my journey for the last decade. As much as I've made a living by consulting to people, by helping them do business development, which is my skill set, I love helping people build relationships with groups of people. I know a lot of geeks engineers that do a lot of one-to-one relationships. And I'm like, do you ever bring your best strategic partners together? They're like, why would I do that?
Mm-hmm.
I said, because they would probably love meeting each other, because if they're all in the same space and they don't compete, why wouldn't they want to meet each other? But they all think linearly and I think spatially. So I've been building business development networks for people. I do it for myself and I help people do that. And I also coach one-on-one now. But it's been an amazing journey for me as I've transitioned from this business helping IT companies become better and making more money to figuring out, how do I leave this planet better than I found it? And it's not by making money and using the money to do good.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do them in tandem.
Yeah.
That's been my goal.
I've heard it said you can do good and do well, right? And I tend to believe that. So what was it like when you decided to write this first book that you have behind you about joy more so than like business? How was your sense on what that was going to be like?
I'm done trying to be successful in business. Financial return comes from providing value to the marketplace and having people value what you do and making an impact in their lives and getting compensated for that, whatever that looks like. In your business, helping people sell more efficiently on Amazon. For me, it's helping people feel more whole, helping them understand that they are more than what they thought they were. That's the value that I provide. And if I price it appropriately, I will get clients, they'll refer others. That is the result of being human.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of joy for me has been my search my whole life. I grew up in a household without a lot of joy. It's funny because the pandemic happened. My parents are 94 and 91,
Mm.
still living in Florida, still alive, still incredibly sharp and totally with it. And I had a call with my brother and my sister and my parents in 2020 after the pandemic started. And I wanted to ask a question. And I said, we should rotate questions every call. My brother says, I'm not going to do that. What do you want to know? And I said, I've been doing this personal development work for decades now. And my childhood really sucked.
Mm.
Like, my dad was broke when I was 10. And I just want to know, was it just me or was it all three of us that had crappy childhood? And my brother and sister were like, yeah, it sucked. It was really bad. My dad went broke when I was 10. My brother was 14 and my sister was 13. It's not fun when your dad goes broke at that point. He was $250,000 in debt in 1973.
Mm.
I mean, that's a lot of money. It's a couple $1,000,000 today. And he didn't declare bankruptcy. He borrowed the money from a family member and he paid it back over time, figured out how to make money again. And I learned from that about scarcity. I learned about pain. And my parents loved me. I'm not saying I wasn't loved, but there wasn't joy.
Mm.
And I've been kind of searching. And when I saw it in Africa, people kept saying, I bet you can't wait to go back. And I'm like, no. I don't need to go back to Africa. I really found what I was looking for there. I want that here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to go there to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the journey ever since I got back from Africa, is what is it that they had that I really was searching for? And I think at the end of the day, what I was really searching for was inner peace. That's really where it comes from, is this desire to be peaceful. And joy and inner peace to me are synonymous. That's how I define joy in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to find joy, I think we need to define it. So in Success Redefined, I defined happiness,
Mm-hmm.
and happiness is getting my needs met. So the working title of Success Redefined was when wants become needs for very important, busy people. And I think that culturally in the United States, after traveling to Africa and Nicaragua and Southeast Asia, and even Australia and other countries that are not focused on financial return, that we had turned wants into needs.
Mm.
And I think that's a big part of our cultural challenge right now,
Mm.
is that my son forever, he's 24 now, would say, Daddy, I need this. I'm like, Noah, you don't need it. You want it.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And you're allowed to want it, but need? No, I think need is something that we overuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need food, water, shelter, safety, love, air, and health. That's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is a want or a desire.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we really need? And I've met people that are peaceful and happy and filled with joy that don't even have those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
So
have you seen this movie, Life in the Taiga? It's about.
I've not.
Oh, that's a good. You would love this. It's a Werner
Sure.
Herzog movie, and it's about these people who live way north in Siberia, and they live in a village of like 200 people, and it's like everything we have to make. Like, they have like hammers and stuff, but
Yep.
if they want a boat, they got to make the boat. Like if they want to go hunt, it's like you take the snowmobile like 30 miles that way and you go hunt and you try to like get pelts and stuff. But the whole premise of the movie is that those people are just super happy
Yeah.
because I think they have what you're alluding to. Those people you found in Africa, they're connected to each other.
Do you know why?
They're connected to nature,
Yep.
and they need each other to survive.
So if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this was the conclusion I came to in my TED Talk, was that when you have shared purpose, conscious connection plus purpose, when you have shared purpose.
You mean shared amongst like a group of people?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The shared purpose of those folks in Siberia and the folks in Africa, their shared purpose is survival.
Yep.
But it's an instinct. It's not something they have to think about. Once you get beyond survival, you need to consciously think about what your purpose is,
right,
in order to find more connection. Because at the end of the day, my purpose on this planet, I tell people all the time, I'm here to help people connect to themselves, connect to others, and connect to the resources they need to help leave this planet better than we found it. That is my purpose. My skill set, my being, there are certain things that I was gifted with, and there's certain things that I was trained on over the last 62 and a half years. And I get to bring all of those to bear to live out my purpose. So how do I help people connect to themselves? How do I help them connect to others? I help them understand that in order to connect to others, you need to connect to yourself. And you need to ask the question, why do I exist? I think that's the fundamental question. We can't be here. Think about it. Is it really possible that we were put on this planet, that a sperm went into an egg, 40 weeks later, we reproduce a few billion times, and we come out as this being that we really don't understand? There's organs in our body that we don't even know why they exist. I mean, what does a spleen do? You can take it out and you can still function. And your body pumps blood, your body digests food, your body takes care of waste, your body does all this beautiful stuff. And your body also has the ability to think. And we also have the ability to inspect our thought. And that, to me, is where the challenges begin of being human. Because we can inspect our thought, we believe we are thought. And until you take the time to separate I from myself and realize that I am the being having the thought. Because if you let the thought run your life, there's this idea of your inner child, your conscious self, and your highest self. So I do my best, and I am human, so it's impossible to be the Dalai Lama and live at my highest self all the time. Mm-hmm. And I catch myself in conscious self as much as possible, but I also catch myself incredibly often in basic self, which is my inner child. And my inner child is angry, and my inner child is sad, and my inner child is all these things. And I need to thank him for protecting me when I was a little kid. But I'm no longer a little kid. I'm an adult. I can handle this stuff. I can have difficult conversations, and it's not going to break me. It's actually going to make me better. It's going to deepen the relationship, but we don't know that because we're acting out of our inner child pain and structure. So you talked about Eckhart Tolle. He talks about pain bodies. And our pain body is that inner child, that wound that we had. So for me, the work that I'm really doing is that there's a shift from when you get past survival, you go into a stage that I call me. So love and belonging and self-esteem is the next two stages after survival in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay. Now, we can have a whole conversation about this, but Maslow never created a hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy of needs was created by a consulting team that wanted to use his work in the corporate market.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's no pyramid in Maslow's research. There's nothing. And Maslow didn't stop at self-actualization. Towards the end of his life, he was talking about self-transcendence.
Well, one thing we do have to say, those corporate consultants, they were right, because everybody knows about the hierarchy of needs. They did good branding it.
They did, but the truth is I'm not sure their needs, because I'm not sure we need self-actualization. I'm not sure we need self-esteem.
It's more of a want,
they are
right?
helpful.
Yeah, right.
They're more wants and desires. So what is it that we need? I think we need the foundation. And when you shift from survival to me, love and belonging and self-esteem, you start looking outside to make the world around us safer for us to feel complete. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you've done the work and starting to do the work towards stop looking outside to change your outside world and start looking inside to see where are my wounds that I need to heal. And that is the work of being human.
Mm-hmm.
The world is going to unfold however it's going to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's been here for 13.5 billion years. We're here for a blink of an eye. There's a video online of the existence of the solar system from the Big Bang until today. And if you look at this he did it on a strip of land that is 13 miles long, and the human existence is a couple of 100 yards.
Mm.
I mean, we're so insignificant, all of humanity on this planet, and we're here for maybe 100 years if we're lucky, and we think that this world revolves around us, and it doesn't. We're experiencing what's happening. We get to interpret it any way we want to. We make up stories all the time. We make meaning out of things that have no meaning,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the challenges of being human come.
Mm.
So you asked me why I wrote the book. I believe that we all live on this continuum. So if we look at Maslow and we redefine Maslow, which I've been doing for a decade, survival, food, water, shelter, safety, me, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then ascension, which is self-actualization and self-transcendence. So if you think of this continuum, think of it as a ladder. The bottom of the ladder is abject poverty, and the top of the ladder is oneness with God. We all live on this ladder somewhere between those two endpoints. And my belief is that none of those rungs are any better than any else. All the rungs are equally good, bad, indifferent. What's important is to wake up and to know where you are on that ladder. Try and continue up the ladder. Reach down below to help the people below us come up the ladder, and reach above us to the people above us and ask them, what are they seeing that I don't see? That's going to be one of my next books called The Ascension Ladder, which is a fable about a father talking to his daughter about the question is, why are we really here?
Mm.
And I think we're really here to wake up, to be aware of the fact that we are humans, to be aware of where we are in this continuum. So that me thing is all about looking outside to solve my problems. The ascension part is looking inside and saying, how do I self-actualize?
Mm.
How do I figure out why I was put here? And then transcendence is, how do I become one with God, whether you believe in God or not? I was raised Jewish. I am not religious by any stretch of the imagination, but I do believe that I'm a spirit, and I believe I'm part of something greater than myself. And that has brought me more peace than anything I can ever imagine.
Mm. So you have this framework for joy. I see it right behind you. And you have the joy molecule. So let's say of course, I'm seeking joy. I want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be bummed out. But I have all these external things happening. I've got a business run. I got 50 employees. I'm getting married soon. We're trying to have kids.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. The getting married part's easy. The staying married part is the hard part, right?
25 years for me, and I was done about 2.5 years ago. But it was a great ride. 2 beautiful children, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So how would you coach someone on beginning to think about that? I mean, is the first thing like a mindset shift? Is the first thing exercise? Is the first thing viewing yourself through a different lens? Maybe just talk me through that.
Sure. So let me define joy to begin with. Joy is synonymous with inner peace. Mm-hmm. It's knowing, the way that I define it is knowing what you are, who you are, and why you are. When you know those 3 things, nobody else can tell you anything other than what you know yourself to be. And you end up becoming immovable in who you know yourself to be. Mm-hmm. When the world blows you left and right, that's when we start to get in trouble.
So where do you separate joy and happiness? Is happiness a momentary thing? Is joy more of a state of being?
So joy is a way of being, knowing that I'm a spirit having a human experience, knowing that I'm a higher self, I have a higher self, and that I am a being that has thought, and I have agency over my thought. I have the ability to decide which thoughts have value and which thoughts don't. Where before in my life, my thoughts were true, no matter whether they were positive, negative, or indifferent. I gave them all the power. And as soon as I take that and say I no longer believe my thoughts, I just have the ability to inspect them, then my life shifted. So joy is a circumstance-independent way of being. I can live in joy all the time, knowing what I am, who I am, why I am, living in peace, knowing that I'm a being that has a thoughts and feelings. That is my way of finding joy. Happiness is circumstance related when I get my needs met. If I'm not getting my needs met, I'm not happy. If I'm getting my needs met, I'm happy. The easiest way to get your needs met is not have a lot of needs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's the way that I look at the world. The less needs we have, the easier it is to be happy. That's what I experienced in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need a lot. So if you don't need a lot, it's easier to be happy. Most people that I know that are not happy, it's because they don't have what they think they need. And they actually have everything that they need. We live as kings compared to people 200 years ago.
Correct.
Royalty. Roman royalty, we live like we are in a whole nother stratosphere, yet we see ourselves as not having enough. So when I wrote the book, you asked me why I wrote the book. I write books. My brother asked me the same question, to turn a rung on that ladder into a platform. I want to document what it is I've learned at this rung of life. And where I am right now is the more I understand that I am a being having a human experience, that I am somewhere on the ladder in this self ascension. I am knowing that I am more than what I thought I was, not thinking that I am. You can't think your way out of thought. Alan Watts is amazing. He says thinking does not solve any thinking. The only way to solve thinking is to be.
Mm-hmm.
How do you learn to be? So the book has 5 lessons, but we'll get to those in a minute. You asked, where do you start? You start with awareness. That is where all change starts. All change starts with awareness as to what is actually going on. Until you have awareness, there's no way to get alignment, which is the second step. So once you get alignment, the third step is aligned action. So it's A to the 4th power: awareness, alignment, aligned action, A. So how do you get to that? It starts with meditation and mindfulness and finding quiet and being able to inspect your thoughts versus reacting to one's thoughts. So last year, my mantra was quiet mind, skillful mind. How do I quiet it? And when it is not quiet, how do I decide which of the thoughts have value and which don't? And my word this year is agency. How do I get to decide what my mind, what my being accepts as information from that mind that is constantly producing thought?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you say the first step is kind of almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, admitting, right? It's admitting, it's acknowledgement that like I have to be slightly introspective if I want to achieve this state of joy.
If I keep looking outside of myself to find happiness and peace, I will never find it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've heard it said that, desire is just a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until that thing is fulfilled. Like, oh, I'm going to be, I want to be a billionaire. It's like, okay, well, you're going to be unhappy until you get there if that's like how you frame that. And even when you get there, people will become a billionaire and they'll be like, I want to become a 10 billionaire, a decabillionaire. I want to have 100 billion. I want to have a trillion. I want to be the richest person ever. It's like you kind of continue to scale those wants. And that's been something we've known for a long time.
Well, I feel like we're in the desert. We're at the 40-year mark praying to gold statues, hoping that they deliver what we've been praying for. At the end of the day, we are our own master. We have the ability to become present to what we are. So when I say what you are, who you are, why you are, the what is what I do. And you're in the Amazon business. I just created a deck of cards called Spark Cards.
Okay.
Because I traveled for 6 months. So I went to Africa in 2012 for a month. My kids came back and they were different. They were 10 and 12. I told my then wife a year and a half later, our kids were different when they got back. We left for a month. They were different for 2 months. Then they went back to being the same little shits they were before we left.
Yep.
And the only way to really change their life is to get them out of here for a year. And she says, that sounds like a great idea. And that was it. 30 seconds out of the shower. Think about this, see what happens. 5 days later, my 13-year-old daughter says, Daddy, can I be an exchange student when I get to high school? I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, your brother, my uncle, was an exchange student. He went to Brazil when he was a junior in high school. And I said, funny you should ask, because I was just talking to your mom about taking you and your brother out of school for a year and traveling around the world. And she's like, when do we leave? And this was 5 days later. So these are signs, these are breadcrumbs for me. And I said, okay. So January of 2014, I told my partner I'm going to be traveling in 2015. I'm going to disconnect from the business. I'm going to hire people to do the job that I'm doing. And I'm going to plan this trip. And I started planning the trip. And in that year, I realized I hated the business. I didn't like my partner anymore. I didn't like my team. My team stole half my clients and decided to compete with me. And I'm sitting there going, do I really want to continue to run this business, or do I want to just go travel around the world for 6 months, come back and figure it out when I get back? So I chose the latter. I walked away from my own consulting business and said, I will figure it out when I get home. And I had owned a house for 3 years in San Diego that I did not live in, that had an ocean view. So while I was gone for 6 months, I renovated that house so I could move back into it when I came back. And we spent 6 months in Australia, Middle East, and Europe, and showed my kids a different way to live in the world. And I took those 6 months to study happiness. So that's where the success redefined and the whole happiness, and gets back to definitions. Alexander, I mean, if you don't define things, you'll never get them. I think a lot of people say, I want to be joyful. And I say, what is joy? And they'll say it's a feeling, and I'll know it when I feel it.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I don't think so, because you probably don't even know the difference between excitement and fear. They feel very much the same, but you define one as the other. And I'm not sure you will know it when you feel it, because you haven't defined it. So that's kind of where I sit, is like, how do I help people define these words? I have about 30 to 40 words that I work with in my clients, everything from self and identity and love and family and success. And what is a want? What is a need? There's all these words that we throw out. Like, I know what a light is, and I know what a dog is, and I know what a building kind of looks like, unless you look at some of the buildings that Gaudi designs or something else. But I know what these things are. What is love? What is passion? What is want? What is need? What is success? What is achievement? These are all soft words that are different to everybody. Yet we throw them around and we explain them to people and say, what is family? Well, I want my business to function like a family. Well, my upbringing sucked. So if it's like my family, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So what do these words mean? And joy and happiness are two of the words that I ask people to define. And I was working with a client last week, and he said, self and identity have the same definition. I'm like, that's a problem. He's like, why? I said, because your identity is the thing you've created for yourself to live in this world. Yourself is the being that observes the identity, that lives within the identity. So Jim Carrey has this video out. You can go look at it on YouTube. It talks about, I don't exist. And he said he's played all these characters in his life, and one of the characters he's played is Jim Carrey. It's just an unintentional character. He is not Jim Carrey. He is a being that was given that label at birth and has lived into that identity. That work is 10 years since I left my business. I didn't understand identity. And the third lesson in my book is 3 challenged athletes that have lost something significant. So the first athlete, I rode from San Francisco to San Diego on a tandem bike with this gentleman, Jeff Mata. He's 100% blind. So he's in the back of the bike, not in the front. And we rode from San Francisco to San Diego. And Jeff is a world champion jiu-jitsu competitor. And he's on the U.S. judo team for the 2028 Olympics.
Jeez.
And he competes against sighted people. He just happens to be blind. And the second story is Moon Tucker, who lost her arm in a motorcycle accident. She's now a world champion archer. And then Joe Delagrave, who's going to write the next book with me called The Identity Illusion, which is this whole third lesson in the book, is that when you attach yourself to your identity and your ego, that's where the joy is lost. Being attached to our identity and our ego is, to me, one of the biggest killers of joy, because I'm trying to be something other than myself.
Zoom in on that for me.
Sure.
Attachment to your ego is where joy is lost.
When I think I am something other than a spiritual being that has a mind and a body. So let me use this analogy for you. When I'm born, myself, my true self, is driving the car. I'm a baby. I am free. I have no concerns. I am alive. I am pure love.
Not a whole lot of separation between self and identity at that point.
There is no identity.
Right.
There just is. Ultimate possibility. Then your parents get a hold of you and they start explaining to you who they need you to be.
They want you to be
in
smart.
order for them to be happy.
They want you to be tough. They want you to be hardworking. They want you to be
so
ambitious.
Your true self gets put in the passenger seat, and you start to build this identity without even knowing it.
Mm.
And then you go to school, and now your friends and your teachers are telling you who they need you to be in order for them to be okay with you,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can fit in, so that you can be safe and you can be comfortable. And your true self goes from the passenger seat to the back seat. And then the true self, by the time you're out of high school into college, is in the trunk in a little box.
Mm-hmm.
And your identity is clearly driving the car.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that I am this being. My birth name, Lawrence Bruce Kesslin. I am Larry Kesslin. I am a college graduate with a BS in electrical engineering, and I have a job at one of the best companies in the world, and I am this thing. And the truth is, my being is in the trunk saying, this is interesting back here. And I'm just living in the darkness.
Mm.
And I think the job over your lifetime is to take that being that's in the trunk, put him back in the driver's seat, take the identity that's gripping the wheel as tight as possible to have control of this experience of being human, and break it into a couple of pieces. And those pieces is your adult conscious self. That's the one that thinks about things before you make decisions and lets things ruminate. And then there's your inner child, which is, there's a happy inner child. There's probably half a dozen inner children. There's your angry self. There's your sad self. It's almost like Inside Out from Disney. There's all these different characters. And what we need to do is break them into pieces. And for an adult, healthy adult, I believe myself needs to be in the driver's seat. My adult conscious mind is in the passenger seat, observing everything, taking everything in. The best seat in the car is the passenger seat. No responsibility for driving. You get to observe everything. And the driver should be my pure self, my highest being. And then my inner child goes in the back seat, and pieces of my inner child need to be thanked for all the things they did to protect me as a child. But as an adult, I no longer need them. And they need to go into the trunk.
Mm.
The one that's angry, the one that responds, the one that just instinctively gets mad or thinks that I'm right. I did a dinner a couple of weeks ago, and I asked everybody at dinner, what does being right cost you? Because each of us have a cost for our need to be right, which is all ego. Our ego needs certain things. Our being is 100% love. Our being is 100% abundance. Our being is 100% present. Our being is just totally grateful. And our being is neutral. It attaches no meaning to anything. Our mind creates meaning. Our mind creates scarcity. It's not bad. It's not good. It just is. And we get to decide as conscious adults what we allow our mind to interpret. I mean, my coaching work teaches me more about me than anything. This is my therapy, helping others see themselves for what they truly are. And then I see myself in the mirror. Because all I'm doing is being a mirror for people. I help create safe spaces for people to share their true self with me.
Mm. Interesting. So how do you try to coach people on like separating that that identity that they've created for themselves? Like you said, I was thinking about myself when I was in college, like, oh, I was a soccer player. That's who I am. I'm a jock, I'm these things. But you've almost come so far away from where you started. Like, how do you even begin to like peel that back and go like, well, who am I underneath all these layers?
Alexander, where did your belief system come from?
Don't know exactly. Things that I heard and saw throughout life. People, experiences, and just people and experiences. Really, probably experiences mostly.
The truth of what happened, or your interpretation of what happened?
Probably a mixture, right?
I'm not sure we ever know the truth of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's mostly interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it. Your belief system. You ever read Michael Singer, Untethered Soul?
I have not. I've heard of it.
Okay. So your belief system, in my opinion, is an interpretation of everything that's unfolded in front of you your entire life, everything you've read, everything you've thought, everything you've seen.
Makes sense to me.
And you're one of 8 billion creatures on this planet. How is it possible to even naively think that what your belief system is pure truth? But we give it power
Mm-hmm.
because we believe it's true because it's our belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do with people is help them break that down and say, no, that's not true. I honor the fact that it's your truth. And I honor the fact that it is your experience and it's your interpretation of your experience.
Mhm.
But how can I help you see that it's just a belief system? It's not you.
Mm.
It's the identity you've created. And it should be loved and cherished. And it should be appreciated for the work it's done to get you to here. But the question is, do I want to continue living on this roller coaster of waiting for the outside world to be what I need it to be in order for me to feel whole and complete? Or do I want to realize that it's just a belief system
Mm.
and I get to decide whether that belief system has value or not? It's like friends. So you have friends in your life that you had in college
Mhm.
that 15 years later you're probably no longer friends with, right?
Some in college, yes. Some I'm still close with.
But a lot of them in college you're not close
Oh,
with right
I'm
now.
close with 3.
Okay. So the other people you met no longer had value to you. Think of your belief system the same way,
Mhm.
but we hold on to it. There are all these programs that talk about personal development. So Landmarks Forum, and I work with this group in San Diego that started in LA called Insight. And it's like you're in a fish tank your whole life, you're a fish and you're pooping. And I'm 60 plus years old and I'm swimming in the same poop I've been swimming in my whole life. That's my belief system.
Mhm.
You need to clean out your belief system and say, okay, I have to inspect it and say, okay, what is it that I believe that's true that I want to hold on to? So we said step 1 is assessment. Step 2 is alignment. How do I define my values? How do I define my core priorities in life? And how do I define how I want to live in the world? How do I define what a friend is? So you have friends today that don't serve us because they don't give us back what we give them. Is that truly a friend? So how do we define friendship? How do we define a relationship? Am I getting what I need or am I just giving them what they need? And is that acceptable? Is it okay to be in a relationship like that? And you get to choose. But it has to be a conscious choice. So that's alignment. And then taking aligned action means being the person you were born to be.
Mm.
How do I wake up every day without any questions and be? Not have to do anything, not have to please anyone, but just be every day, every moment. Be, do, have. Be the person you know yourself to be. Do the habits that those people that are the way that you want to be are, and you will have everything you ever dreamed of.
Mm. You do.
But our society does have, do, be. I want to have this stuff so I get it, so I can do the things that I want to do, so I can be the person I want to be. Doesn't work that way.
Mm. So you reverse that. You say, first, I be the person that I want to be. I do the habits that the person who I want to be does. And then if I do those things consistently over time, I will have the things that I desire. I like that. And it's up to me. Talk to me about purpose and connection, because I see them clearly on both kind of pieces of the book. So it
Yeah.
seems like you seems like a very engineering based approach. It's like this thing plus this thing equals this thing. Let's define this thing, and this thing will
I
come
did go
out.
to school for 4 years to be an engineer.
Yeah,
So that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. It does feel like you've tried to reverse engineer it, and it seems like to me you're doing a good job. You've got these
Appreciate
two
that.
very important pieces of that equation, if you will, behind you, or I guess for you, like the element or molecule. Talk to me about where those things come into play, and maybe break down for me, like you enjoy doing those terms.
So for me, I think we are here. This is the crazy part. We don't teach people to connect. We teach people
That
to isolate.
that is true. I would say that is never something that I got a high school or a college class on, is like connecting with individuals.
And I think that's the reason we're here. We're here to connect. And there's 5 or 6 things we need to connect to in order to find the joy I think we want in our life. And the first thing we need to connect to is ourself. The second one we need to connect to is a higher self, is some being that is greater than us, because I think we're all connected at some point. There's a book called Hope for the Flowers by Trina Paulus. It's about a caterpillar looking for the meaning of life as a caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to get to the top of the caterpillar pillar. The only way you can get to the top of the caterpillar pillar is by stepping on top of other caterpillars to get to the top. But the true reason for being a caterpillar is to spin upside down on a branch, build a cocoon, become a butterfly, and fly to the top of the pillar. You don't need to climb on anybody else. So I believe, like, as humans, we are climbing on top of other humans in order to get what we want, when the truth is we're in incubation our whole life. There's something after this. I have to believe there's something after this. I believe that there's more to life. There's a great video online about the twins in a womb, and one twin talking to the other womb and says, "Do you think there's life after delivery?" And the one baby says, "Of course there's life after delivery. Why wouldn't there be?" And the other one says, "Well, I can't see it and I can't feel it. So how could there be life after delivery?" He says, "Well, maybe we'll walk with our legs and eat with our mouths." And the other one says, "That's scientifically impossible. The umbilical cord is what provides life," and blah, blah, blah. And he says, "Well, if it's so great out there, if it's so great in here, why wouldn't anybody ever come back?" And it's this whole thing about life after death. And at the end of the talk, it's all about, and I'm sure you believe in mother. And the critical baby's like, "Mother, you believe in mother?" And the other baby says, "Well, we're of her, we're in her. And if you can be quiet enough and listen, you can hear her beautiful voice. So why are we on this planet?" That's really the question I keep asking.
Mm.
It's about connection. I think the reason we're here is to connect.
Mm.
First, connect to self, connect to higher self, connect to other humans, connect to the planet, connect to other animals, and connect to our creativity. Those are the 6 things I think we're here to connect to. And I did a survey about a year ago before I finished the book. And I never used the research in the book because it wasn't appropriate. But I assumed when I did this research on Facebook, I had a few hundred people fill it out. I said, other than self and God, here's 4 things, put them in order of importance of connection. And it was another person, your art, another animal, non-human, pet, or the planet. And I assumed before I did the survey, it would be 80% another person and 20% split between the others. And it was 79,876. So 79% put another person first, 8% put the planet, 7% put another animal, and 6% put their music or art as first. So I believe we're here to connect. And people tell me all the time, I can't find my purpose. And I say, stop looking. Like, what are you talking about? I said, figure out where you connect the deepest. And that's probably your purpose. Who do you connect with the most and why? And I believe that life is this collection of breadcrumbs. So my work over the last decade plus has been, or maybe 2 decades, has been focused on teens. And I'm realizing now that with my children becoming adults, I love helping young people become adults. And that's what I focus my energy on, is I help people learn what it means to be human. I make my money from people between the ages of 35 and 65 as a coach for them to help them become better humans. But at the end of the day, I want to help young people learn what it means to be an adult. And how do you stop being a child, which is responsibility to others and not taking personal responsibility and not knowing what it means to be an adult? And how do we teach them to do that? Because I think we'll be better when we have raised one of the most non-resilient generations in the history of humanity, because we have had so much wealth that we've made it too easy for them to live on this planet. I had a prospect sit in front of me and say, "I want to go raise a bunch of money so I can grow my business faster." I say, "Why do you want to do that?" He says, "I don't want my daughter to suffer the same way that I did." And I said, "Excuse me for a second, but did you learn more when you suffered, or did you learn more when life was easy?" And he had no answer. I'm like, why are you stealing your learning from your child? If the suffering is what creates the opportunity for learning, why do you want it to be easy? That's not serving them. That's serving you, because you're not seeing your pain through your child. And that's the beauty of finding peace, is that my daughter went through some major challenges the end of last year. And I was 90% perfectly fine with watching her go through it, and 10% my inner child screaming and yelling, saying, "Why are you doing this to my child?" And the truth is, it was just unfolding. And she's exactly who she needs to be. And the world is teaching her what she needs to learn. And we'll find out decades from now why it all happened, or not. My company's called 5 Dots because Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford in 2005 said that you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. And you have to trust in something, fate, karma, something that the dots will somehow connect. Or why are we here? And I can tell you more situations than you can imagine of the dots connecting later and saying, why did I do this? Why did I do that? Why did this happen? Why did I meet that person? Oh my God. And one thing we didn't talk about, one of my transformative moments in my life, I've done a bunch of work with um, psilocybin mushrooms,
Mm.
plant medicine. And I had one experience where I literally left my body for a little over 2 hours. And I started seeing all these people in my life and how I connected to them. And I'm like, wow, life can't be this simple. And the guy I was with, his name was Michael. I'm like, Michael, it can't be this easy. He's like, Larry, it's this easy. I'm like, no, Michael, it can't be this easy. He's like, Larry, it is this easy. Once you realize that you're more than your brain and you're more than your body, then life is actually pretty simple. It's just practicing it. So for the last year and a half, I've been living as a being with a mind and a body versus living as my mind.
Mm.
It took me a little over 61 years, 4 months, and 6 days. Not that I remember numbers or anything, but January 16th of 2025, I feel like was my second birthday.
Mm.
And it was the moment that I realized that I'm a being that has, if you've ever seen Jill Bolte Taylor's TED Talk about a stroke of insight, she had a stroke and she talks about this whole topic. And most of us believe that we are this individual, this solid, this human. And I'm pretty sure I'm not. I'm a being that's inside of this skin sack that has a mind
Mm-hmm.
and has access to my feelings. And the identity is valuable to get the things I want in society, but it's not me.
Mm.
It's the identity I've created. It's the Jim Carrey saying I don't exist.
Mm.
Jim Carrey is just a character I'm playing. So Larry Kesslin is just a character I play. My being is living through this
Mm.
and just experiencing this. And there's something after this that we just don't know about that we're preparing for. So how do we wake up to the fact of what we really are?
Mm. Larry, I appreciate that, man. That's super interesting, and I think I really like what you said about connection. That kind of like inherently builds your purpose in, because if you connect with enough people, then you find out like, oh, these are the people in the group that I like and I need to help. And that's something I've always done because I'm with you. I like to try to help entrepreneurs along. I feel like that's what I enjoy doing. That's what charges me up. So that's actually tomorrow. I'm going back to my college to do a judging for a group of entrepreneurs. So that's always fun
Cool.
for me. But if you connect with enough people, your purpose is kind of inbuilt into that. And that, based on what you have behind you, kind of leads you to long-term joy.
We are blessed to be here. To me, it's about unlocking the power of human connection.
Mm.
Why are we here? And I think we're here to connect.
Mm.
And how does that happen? It starts by connecting to self. And it's a beautiful thing.
Larry, where can people find more about you, find your books, catch up with you? I know you do coaching work, as you stated here, consulting and coaching. Where do people find all that stuff? Or where would you recommend people begin?
If they want to find out more about me, 5-dots.com is the website. They can find my book on Amazon, both of them, The Joy Molecules in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. And Success Redefined is in paperback and Kindle. Thinking about doing the audiobook, even though it's 11 years since I published the book. And anybody can email me at larry@larrykesslin.com or larry@5-dots.com. They both get to me. And I just love connecting with people. I've had calls from out of the blue of people that read the book that said thank you. And those have been beautiful conversations. So I love that. And the book is all about these 8 people that I've met since 2012 that have taught me 5 powerful lessons. One is my circumstance does not define my joy. My work needs to matter. My identity kills my joy. Perseverance, persistence, and patience. And the last one we didn't talk about at all in this call is I call it the Enough Academy. When we have enough, which it sounds like where you are, what is our responsibility back to others?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a story about a philanthropist that's put over 1,000 kids through college, first-gen students.
Mm.
And now he's got 1,000 active students under scholarship, $5,000 a year for 4 years. He invests $5 million a year in these students, and he does it because of the relationships he gets with the young people, not because of the money. And the question is, what is our responsibility once we are successful? And that's what I love helping people do. People that have means, what is it that we could do that would impact the world and leave this place better than we found it?
Well, that goes back to your purpose and connection leading to joy. So Larry, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you. Enjoy your San Diego afternoon. I hope it's beautiful out there.
Thank you very much. And you enjoy yours as well.
Thank you, man. We'll talk soon.